It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show. Today's date's the 26th of February. It is a Thursday. So happy it's Thursday. And John, what block are we in right now?
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
It is. And what do we do with the first story? We do this.
It's number 3.
A story on STLPR about the 988 phone number. And what's interesting about this is I still think a lot of people don't know about what the 988 phone number is. You know what the 988 phone number is, right?
I do. It's a helpline, Brad. And if I recall correctly, this is a national story. It's not written by St. Louis Public Radio. It's a national story that was syndicated on St. Louis Public Radio, right?
Right. And it says, since its launch in 2022, the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Prevention Lifeline has responded to nearly 13 million calls, but many states have been slow to spend their own dollars on the program. Do you know how Missouri's funding this? Are they funding this out of what fund? Do you know anything about this at all?
Yeah. And in fact, I believe there were some Missouri state representatives who attempted to test this. You probably remember the story, Brad, who called the line and were able to confirm that they would be put on hold or they would be sent to a chatbot or something. Yeah, I'm guessing that it comes out of general revenue.
You know, it's funny. I've thought about this. I heard an ad for this on another station the other day, and I thought to myself, you know what? I bet you any money if you call that, you get voicemail, which you said somewhat was confirmed by some of the Missouri people who called the number, right?
Yeah, there was an instance, and I'm looking it up as we speak. We've discussed it on the show, and my memory fails me at the moment. But a representative from St. Charles County, a female state representative, and I'm trying to look up whether it was Tricia Byrnes or Wendy Hausman. But one of them, I believe it was Tricia Byrnes, tested the line and ended up getting, I believe, a chatbot. I'm looking that up. I'll look that up while you speak.
Well, the sad thing about this is it's sort of like, if you listen to the casino ads on the radio stations, we don't get any because we don't have any ratings, quote unquote, according to Nielsen, but that's a whole other story. If you listen to the casino ads, they all have like 1-800-GAMBLER. If you have gambling problems, go 1-800-GAMBLER. Have you ever called one of those lines, John?
I have not. I do not have a gambling problem.
No, but
other than investing resources with you, I've never gambled.
Thanks so much. But the idea being is, I bet you any money, you don't get a live person. Nobody live answers that phone. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and so to sorry to interrupt briefly, but I did look it up, and it was State Representative Tricia Byrnes, who we mentioned back in A block of running for state senate. She called it a catastrophic failure because she tested and she called and she got non-human responses. So she introduced some legislation to ensure real-time help. I should also point out that this summary that I just read is brought to us by Google's AI, and I have not fact-checked that. You know how I feel about relying on AI. Brad and Brom. Go ahead.
And by the way, if you are seeking some help, you can call 25 God Squad and leave a prayer request, and we will give a prayer for you. Now, that's not immediate help for if you have suicide situation, but if you're needing some guidance, call 25 God Squad. Or if you've done somebody wrong and you'd like to essentially make that right by saying that you're wrong, if that makes any sense, 557 I'm sorry. 557.
And we also got a text from one of our favorite, well, I can't speak for you, one of my favorite listeners who confirmed it was Tricia Byrnes. And Brad, that 988 number is also great to call if you're an old man trying to get a large vehicle off a trailer and you refuse because of your rugged independence to ask anyone for help. And the car rolls over your ankle, your leg, and you get concussed. That's when you should call the helpline.
I had a visit with my doctor yesterday. That was an interesting story. But
are you going to talk about it in C Block?
Maybe we'll talk about it in C Block. Okay. Ready for number 2?
Yes, Brad.
It's time for Brad's number 2. It's time for Brad's number 2.
John, did you by any chance see this on Tuesday night during the SOTU, the State of the Union address? The outside, one of the protests was the Portland Frog Brigade. Did you by any chance see this?
No. Who are they?
Do you know about this?
Nope. I've seen this. A Frog Brigade. Now, is this some sort of like transgender thing, or what is this?
Okay. There's a lady. I don't know her name. She's a rep, a U.S. rep, and part of her district is Portland, Oregon. And she is up on a stage. I'm not making this up. You can find this on YouTube. It's funny as all get out. she is talking about that she's not going to see that terrible orange man. I don't think she says orange man, but, she's talking about Trump. And she's not going to the State of the Union address. She's proud to be with her very own Portland Frog Brigade. The Portland Frog Brigade is, you want me to read? This is off their website.
Yeah, who are they? I don't know who they are.
You can go to portlandfrogbrigade.com. The Portland Frog Brigade uses inflatable animal costumes to practice the proven art of peaceful, creative dissent, exercising our right to free expression in defense of the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law. Our resistance assistance program provides direct material support and services to organizations working to advance democracy, justice, and human dignity. There are many paths into resistance. Ours uses spectacle and humor with intent to build community, generate joy, and pierce the aura of authoritarian power, cutting through the fear it depends on, and exposing the hollowness beneath its claims of omnipotence. Most importantly, frogs always remain peaceful. And right on the front page, you can donate. Choose amount monthly: $1,000, $500, $250. Geez, the low dower network's only $5, $10, $15, and $20. And their mission statement. You ready for this, John? You ready for this?
Yes.
The Portland Frog Brigade is a nonviolent art activist collective that models and advocates for peaceful, creative dissent. Through play, spectacle, and humor, we speak truth to undermine fear-based narratives, and amplify the work of resistance organizations by providing them direct material support, practical services, and visible solidarity in defense of democracy and human dignity. They have inflatable frog costumes that they show up at various events in, and there's videos. You go to YouTube, there's all these crazy videos. Now, the interesting thing about this is, if you read some of the crazy stuff that I read, you see more and more of these inflatable people showing up as protesters. You saw it in Minneapolis. You saw the inflatable people, right? You've seen this, John, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I've read this and I thought to myself, I can't believe this is so funny.
Now, isn't that kind of a good thing? Because instead of having an angry lesbian driving her Subaru wearing a vest, using her little feminine hands to punch an ICE officer, wouldn't it be better to have somebody in a big inflatable? Like, it couldn't hurt that much to get punched by one of them, right?
If you look at the hamburger on their webpage, and if you go down to the How to Frog page, it says
How to Frog. Is that a new position, Brad? Have you seen the frog? Never mind. I'm not going to. Brad, don't Google frog. If you're listening to this and you work for a company, go to your personal phone and look up females in the frog position. Don't look it up from your company website, okay?
I'm not going to do that. Okay. How to Frog, the Inflatable Resistance Handbook. Download our How to Frog kit, grab your friends, create our own brigade of whatever whimsical absurdity you come up with, and get out there and let your voice be heard. Now, there's a bunch of links on here. Matter of fact, where to buy. Search online for inflatable costumes and your chosen animal, frog, dinosaur, unicorn, etc. via Amazon, eBay, or specialty shops like Spook Shop, Morph Suits, or Costume Supercenter. Costume options. SD makers can print or sew logos or custom designs. You can also just slap stickers on it. What to look for? Internal battery-powered fan with replaceable AA battery pack and or USB power connection. Reinforced seams and thicker nylon for durability. Proper size for your needs, ensuring your mobility and visibility, bright colors for visibility and safety. Now, they advise you, this is where it gets interesting, if you're going to wear your frog costume or another costume, this is where, to me, this is the ha-ha, funny Brad stuff, which I get a kick out of. They advise you to also, in your frog costume, carry a sharp razor blade or a knife. And do you know why this is, John?
To deflate.
To rapidly deflate. And do you know why?
Yeah, exactly. Certainly not to assault anyone with a razor blade. But in case you got to get out of that costume quickly, you got to deflate it.
And do you know what people are doing?
I have no idea, Brad. Tell me.
They are carrying the counter protesters. The protesters are the Portland Frog Brigade, and the counter protesters are carrying cans of fart spray. They go up behind the frogs and where their ventilation duct, where the blower pulls in the air from outside.
Oh gosh, I feel like I'm watching a teenage prank show. Yes, Brad, I can visualize this.
They spritz a couple of sprays from the fart can into the... I'm sorry, John.
I think you found your calling, Brad. I think that maybe you should leave the station to me and, anyone besides you and go up to Portland and handle that.
So immediately the frogs have to get out their costumes because they can't handle the smell.
I don't even know if we should do number one. I think we should just let you laugh at number two, Brad.
Okay, here we go. Number one.
And now, big finish, Brad's number.
It is my number one. John, the other day I was listening, I think this was on Monday, and I've kept this one for a couple of days because I've done a little bit more research on this. I was listening to 1A on KWMU. You're familiar with what 1A is?
I'm not. Isn't that where all the hot chicks post selfie? That's 30A. Never mind. That's Pensacola. Go ahead, Brad.
1A is the program that used to be held by the gal who talked like that. What was her name again?
Diane Reeves.
Diane Reeves. Okay. And she did the show from WAMU, American University in D.C. And they had an interesting show on there the other day about young men, and we've talked about this, young men being confused, okay? They're not knowing what to do and things like that. Now, because no matter what they do, angry short hairs will criticize them. Right, because of the whole thing, which I've complained about before, the fact, and I don't, John's going to go, here he goes.
It's deed and tots. Yep,
it's deed and tots. That young men are confused nowadays because they don't know if they should be effeminate or masculine. Well, they don't want to be masculine because if you could become masculine.
And what was the show about, Brad?
Okay, the show was about, and it was interesting because there's a couple statistics that came off of the show. The number one cause of death for young men between the ages of 15 and 25, guess what it is?
Helping SUVs off of old men in parking lots.
Suicide. The number one cause of death.
I believe that.
Is suicide. Okay, now, I found an article on GQ.com, and they didn't reference this article, but they referenced this guy. His real name is Braden Peters. And I'll read the first paragraph of this story.
It's Clavicular. You're talking about Clav.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Brad. It was the hottest story in the internet back in November.
Right. And explain since you know all about it, explain who this guy is.
Yeah, I think Clavicular has reached the mainstream now. He's a guy that focuses on looks maxing, which is generally part of what we call the black pill community.
Right.
So the idea of looks maxing is that the primary determinant of whether or not women will be interested in you are your looks. Now, the black pill mentality, and I'll summarize this in 30 seconds, Brad. Clavicular has gained worldwide attention because he takes his looks maxing to the extreme. And he does, frankly, silly things. Like, I won't say the name of the drug because I know people are sensitive about that on YouTube. But he takes certain drugs, he says, that are illegal street drugs to suppress his appetite because he believes in lean maxing, making his face skinnier.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly, he uses a hammer to bang on his cheekbones to make his cheekbones more prominent.
And what one of the common practices is young men who are using hammers to break their cheekbones because when they heal back, they don't heal back correctly, and they give that more angular look of your face where your cheekbones stick out further, and it makes your cheeks pucker, to the point where you look like you have that like wide angle, jawline, but yet your cheeks are like sort of sunken in because you're not eating anything. Okay. I listened to this, and I thought to myself, and I read this article, OMG, this is some really serious stuff. And
Brad, and I'm glad you mentioned it. And when I think of this story, I think of, our friend Camelia Peterson does a show. She appears a few times a week with our friend Austin Peterson. And this is the type of story that's tailor-made for Austin because it involves like masculinity. And I believe Camelia and Austin have talked about this. But Brad, this has been a hot topic for like the last 6 months. And in fact, I was talking to an unnamed West County MILF within the last 2 weeks who had suddenly heard of Clavicular and who hadn't heard of Clavicular. So we're at a point now, Brad, and I'm not poking fun at you, but when the Brad Hildebrands of the world and when, a hot MILF who's very well read and well informed is finally hearing about Clavicular. We know that Clavicular is now in the mainstream.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that the black pill, you know the philosophy behind the black pill?
Yeah, Brad, I've kind of been around this space for 15, 20 years. Yeah.
Okay, but the interesting part of this article is this article written by, let me see who's the author, and it was a very well done article. It's written
and
by...
What is, and as you understand the black pill, Brad, because I've spent, frankly, a lot of time knowing about these different pill groups. Let's just leave it at that. What is your interpretation of the black pill, Brad? I defined it earlier, but go ahead and define it again.
Well, here, let me just give a little bit more about this article. Okay, it's in GQ. You can find it at gq.com, and it's written by Kieran Press-Reynolds, I guess, and photography by Taryn Siegel. And they followed Clavicular to a runway show in New York City. Okay.
Yeah, and is this about Brett Cooper showing up there?
Well, part of it has to do with it, but they have all this behind-the-scenes stuff. The photographer went behind the scenes, and they're in the dressing room for him to go on this runway show. And one of the pictures is one of his assistants injecting him in the stomach with some gooky, grappy stuff that makes him look even thinner. And I'm going like, what in the world is this? And he brags about the fact that he's now got an online course. By the way, I had a big sale on one of my courses the other day, and I actually sold, and you don't even know about this course. I've never told you about this course. If I told you the name of this course, you would laugh your butt off, but it's actually becoming somewhat popular. Anyway, he claims he's making $100,000 a month by selling his online course, how you can be just like him. You can be an emaciated...
Yeah, I believe that. He makes a lot of money streaming. Maybe we should, because it's so late, Brad, maybe we should carry this into C Block if we have time, because, and we just heard on, if you take a look at the text line, I believe, well, you could take a look at the text line and see what we have there. But yeah, I think we should discuss this more, because I could give a pretty concise overview of blue pill, like you're a big blue pill guy. I'm a red pill guy. Clavicular's a black pill guy. And I think that there's, if you have young men, if you know young men or you have children that are young men, I think you have to pay attention to Clavicular, because in middle schools today, there are kids gently tapping on their face with hammers.
And it's bizarre. I mean, when I heard this, I thought to myself, okay, this is just, I say it again, John, the young men, and even not the young men, I told the bizarre story of like the group I went to, and John's going to call it Deedham Tots, where a guy was trying to do like a reciprocal group of Little Black Book, which
and what were those men like, Brad? You got them all together. How would you describe those men?
They were guys who came out of their basement, their mom and dad's basement, for the first time and saw daylight in 2 months. You know what I mean?
They were basement dwellers, and they were sad sacks, and it's what the great Rollo Tomasi calls Delta men. They are invisible to women. They have no personality. They have no reason why a woman would want to hop on their lap, facing them or facing the other way, and get fulfill their biological mission with these men. They're just invisible to women. I think we should continue this in C Block.
Okay, and I will tell the story of two of my friends who sent me some interesting pictures over the last couple of days, okay?
Yes.